Why don't you get out more? You are so weird. I thought we invited you.
I thought we invited you.
Invited you. Invited you. Invited you. Invited you.
Okay, but I could set the building on fire.
They don't lead. They don't follow. They don't even play the game. The omega male, the ghost of the hierarchy, the outcast, the exile, the weirdo genius, or the sad clown. You might laugh at him. You might pity him. But without him, the hierarchy isn't complete. This is the Omega Male Explained. Before we dive in, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Otherwise, the Omega will just keep muttering in the shadows, unheard, unwanted, and misunderstood. What is the Omega Male? In Vox Day's Socio-Sexual Hierarchy, the Omega is the rank below even the lowest. While Alphas rule, Betas support, Sigmas drift, and Gammas scheme, the Omega is the man who opts out or gets cast out entirely. He's not competing. He's not in the pack. He's outside, usually by accident or by design. Sometimes by being too odd, sometimes too brilliant, sometimes too broken. If the Alpha is the star quarterback, the Omega is the guy in the basement playing chess against himself. If the Gamma is the self-styled game master, the Omega doesn't even bother pretending to play. But make no mistake, Omega isn't just a loser. Sometimes it's genius unchained. Sometimes it's madness unfiltered. Sometimes both. Do you know someone who never seemed to fit anywhere, no matter how hard they tried? Real-world Omega examples. Nikola Tesla, the loneliest genius. Tesla gave us alternating current radio prototypes and half the modern world's electrical foundation. Yet he died broke, alone, and largely forgotten in his lifetime. He was eccentric to the extreme, talking to pigeons, claiming to receive visions, eating the same meals every night, obsessively avoiding germs. While Edison built empires and cultivated alpha image, Tesla withdrew further into his experiments and obsessions. He wasn't competing in the hierarchy. He was locked in his own world, one foot in genius, the other in madness. Tesla shows the Omega archetype at its highest, brilliance without belonging. Ted Kaczynski, the Omega who cracked. Ted Kaczynski was a prodigy, entering Harvard at 16, becoming a mathematics professor. Yet he was utterly disconnected from society.
The students hated him, absolutely loathed him. Didn't have any class hours, he wouldn't talk to them.
He couldn't hold friendships, couldn't integrate, and eventually fled to a shack in the woods. From there, bitterness consumed him. His manifesto railed against modern technology. His bombs struck terror. Kaczynski represents the dark side of the Omega, isolation turning into hostility. Where Sigma opts out by choice, Ted was pushed out by alienation and turned his rejection into violence. He's the cautionary tale. What happens when Omega bitterness festers unchecked? Andy Kaufman, the cosmic prankster. Kaufman wasn't like other comedians. He didn't want laughs. He wanted confusion. He'd read The Great Gatsby aloud on stage, play wrestling heel against women, or bomb intentionally just to watch the audience squirm. People never knew whether to laugh, boo, or just walk out. He wasn't chasing alpha applause or bravo approval. He was an Omega artist, creating his own rules, alienating as many as he entertained. Even in success, he remained on the fringe, more performance art than comedy. Andy Kaufman embodied the Omega spirit, brilliant, bizarre, never fully understood, Salvador Dalí, the surrealist Omega.
Butterfly.
Watch yourself.
Represents.
Dalí painted melting clocks, lobsters on telephones, and landscapes pulled from dreams. He cultivated eccentricity to the point of parody. Wild mustache, grandiose statements, antics that made people wonder if he was mad or just pretending. And yet, despite his fame, he was always an outsider. The art world embraced him, but never fully trusted him. He thrived in a bubble of surrealism, disconnected from ordinary society. Dalí wasn't trying to be alpha in the art world. He was building his own strange Omega kingdom, where the rules bent like time in one of his paintings. Bobby Fischer, the Broken King.
But do you like to beat another man?
Yeah, I do. Yes, I like to beat another man.
Well, you smile about it.
Fischer was the Mozart of chess, a child prodigy who became world champion by toppling the Soviets at the height of the Cold War. But victory didn't bring him peace. It unraveled him. Paranoid, antisocial, spouting conspiracies, fleeing from fame. He lived in exile for much of his later life. Fischer is the Omega story in slow motion, from celebrated genius to tragic recluse. He had mastery, but no place in the hierarchy, no ability to connect. The greatest chess player of his time ended as a man, checkmated by his own mind.
So when they go home that night, they know that they can't kid themselves that they're so hot.
What drives a person to choose solitude, genius, or disappointment? Fictional Omega examples. Wolverine, the scarred loner. Logan doesn't lead teams. He doesn't scheme for power. He drinks alone, broods alone, and fights alone. The X-Men need him, but he's never truly one of them. His past is trauma, his future is tragedy, and his relationships are fleeting at best. Wolverine embodies the Omega's isolation.
Everybody okay back there?
No.
Powerful, yes, but broken, scarred, unwilling to conform. Where an alpha would rally troops, Wolverine slips out the back door with a bottle and a cigarette, waiting for the world to force him back into battle. He's the Omega warrior, not excluded by weakness, but by wounds that never heal. Hodor, the gentle outcast. In Game of Thrones, Hodor is the most literal Omega, mocked for his simplicity.
Find the half-wits.
Excluded from normal society, reduced to a single word. Yet beneath the laughter and pity is deep loyalty and hidden tragedy. Hodor's entire life is defined by being outside the game, but when the moment comes, his sacrifice is monumental. Omegas are often underestimated, seen as useless or strange, but Hodor shows their unexpected nobility. He's not alpha, not beta, not even gamma. He's the boy who could only say, Hodor, until it meant everything. The Joker, the chaotic reject. Every version of the Joker shares one truth: he doesn't belong. Too deranged for alpha dominance, too unhinged for sigma detachment, too broken for beta support. The Joker is the Omega turned inside out. The man so excluded from society that he laughs at its very rules. He thrives on rejection, feeding his identity with the chaos it creates. From Heath Ledger's Agent of Chaos to Joaquin Phoenix's mentally ill loner, pushed past his limit, the Joker shows the nightmare side of the Omega. What happens when bitterness and alienation don't just simmer, they explode. Radagast the Brown, the Forgotten Wizard. While Gandalf advises kings and Saruman plots world domination, Radagast lives in the woods with rabbits, mushrooms, and bird droppings on his robes. He's eccentric, distracted, more interested in talking to animals than influencing Middle-earth. Radagast embodies the harmless Omega, powerful, but too strange, too whimsical, too withdrawn to play in the hierarchy of wizards. He's mocked, dismissed, sometimes pitied, yet he remains essential in quiet ways. The Omega isn't always destructive. Sometimes he's just the oddball in the forest, happily disconnected from the world's great struggles. Napoleon Dynamite.
Been with my uncle in Alaska, hunting wolverines.
The awkward misfit.
Did you shoot any?
Yes, like 50 of them.
Napoleon is the modern comedic Omega.
Kept trying to attack my cousins. What the heck would you do in a situation like that?
Socially awkward, dressed out of sync with his peers, living in his own world of doodles and tetherball. He's excluded, mocked, never taken seriously. And yet, by sheer persistence and odd charm, he leaves his mark. Napoleon represents the everyday Omega, not genius inventor or dangerous recluse, but the weird kid in school who never quite fits in. His story is less about triumph than about surviving as an outsider and somehow making the audience root for him anyway. Why do so many stories give us heroes who live outside the circle? Core traits of the Omega male. Isolation. Sometimes it's forced, sometimes it's chosen, but Omegas live on the edge of society. They're not in the clubs, not on the teams, not in the inner circles. For some, like Tesla or Fischer, isolation gives them room to focus. For others, like Kaczynski, it festers into resentment. Either way, the Omega lives apart, defined more by his absence from the game than his presence in it. Obsession. Where others balance work, friends, and leisure, Omegas go all in on one thing. It might be science, chess, comedy, art, or even revenge. That single-mindedness makes them brilliant in their craft, but awkward in life. People admire the results, but rarely the man himself. Obsession gives them greatness, and sometimes madness. Alien energy. Omegas are just different. Their mannerisms, their humor, their way of seeing the world, something feels off compared to the social mainstream. Andy Kaufman reading The Great Gatsby on stage, Salvador Dalí walking around in a deep-sea diving suit, Bobby Fischer ranting about conspiracies, all radiate that energy. People laugh or whisper or avoid them altogether. It's the vibe of someone not built to blend in. Tragic or comedic, society doesn't know whether to laugh at Omegas or pity them. Sometimes they're the clown who makes everyone uncomfortable. Sometimes they're the tragic genius who dies alone. Tesla feeding pigeons looks tragic. Napoleon Dynamite dancing on stage looks comedic. The Omega lives in that tension, amusing to watch, painful to live. Freedom from the game. Ironically, Omegas are the only ones who truly escape the hierarchy. Alphas fight to lead, Gammas fight to be recognized, Sigmas fight to stay free. But Omegas? They don't even care. They're off in their own world, chasing obsessions, ignoring the rules. That freedom can be a gift or a curse, liberating when embraced, destructive when it curdles into bitterness. Which of these traits feels the most familiar to you? The Omega and women. Here's where things get tricky. Women usually respond to status, and the Omega has none. Low sexual market value. Most Omegas are invisible to women. Rejection and alienation. They're often the ones with the most painful experiences of rejection, sometimes fueling their bitterness. Obsession over relationships. Some Omegas latch onto unrequited love or fantasy relationships. Rare magnetism. In rare cases, an Omega's eccentric brilliance, think Tesla or Kaufman, can attract, but usually in a niche or short-lived way. Where alphas dominate and sigmas mystify, Omegas confuse or repel. To women, they can be endearing oddballs, tragic charity cases, or just invisible. But there's a paradox here. Omegas are the least attractive in terms of hierarchy. Yet their ideas, their art, their outsider genius often reshape culture in ways the winners never could. Would women see the Omega as tragic, funny, or maybe even strangely safe? Why does the Omega matter, and what is his place? The Omega is the shadow of the hierarchy. Without alphas, no leaders. Without betas, no followers. Without gammas, no destruction. Without omegas, no mirror showing society its absurdity. The Omega is a proof that human value isn't just measured by dominance. He may be forgotten in his time, but later remembered as the one who saw differently, thought differently, or simply lived outside the pack. Is the Omega really weaker than the others, or just playing a different game entirely? Critique of the Omega. Let's be honest, most Omegas live tragic, painful lives. Alienation, loneliness, sometimes madness. Many self-destruct. But lumping all Omegas together as losers is lazy. Some are failures by circumstance. Some are geniuses that didn't fit. Some are eccentrics who chose freedom over conformity. The danger of being Omega isn't just irrelevance, it's resentment. Many bitter Omegas become destructive. The Joker is an extreme fictional example, but in the real world, bitter loners can lash out against the society that excluded them. What happens when someone is excluded for so long that the rejection becomes their identity? Why people relate to Omegas. Here's the secret. Almost everyone has felt Omega at some point. Being excluded, being misunderstood, being laughed at, being alone. That's why Omegas matter, because they embody the universal experience of being on the outside. And while most climb back in, some never do. Summary of the Omega male. Outcast, loner, exile, eccentric, obsessive, misunderstood, culturally powerful, socially powerless, invisible to women, accepted rarely through brilliance, mirror of society's cruelty and absurdity. The Omega is the most tragic, the most comedic, and the most dangerous archetype, precisely because he doesn't play by the rules. And maybe, just maybe, that's his freedom. Is the Omega the lowest rank, or the freest man of all? If you found this breakdown of the Omega male eye-opening, hit like, share, and subscribe. Otherwise, the Omega might just retreat back into the basement and take his secrets with him. Next up on the agenda, the Sigma male. Everybody wants to be him, except for the Sigma himself.